Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to go ahead and wrap up digital citizenship and really the rest of the content for the semester. We're going to be talking about how we can help students create meaningful connections and then how we can take action to promote digital citizenship in the classroom. And then we'll go ahead and wrap up today with a little bit of housekeeping. So let's go ahead and get started talking about creating meaningful connections and networks. And really to do this, we have to think about, well, what is the purpose of the internet? So when we look at traditional approaches, as Matson takes us through in her book, the traditional approach to digital citizenship curriculum is really on, let's go ahead and try to create some kind of self-branding, kind of show off all the great things that we can do, which I get some of this if you're trying to, get people to notice you for like scholarships and some of the great things that you're doing. Definitely students and many people are doing great things. But the problem is when we do branding, we're focused on me, and not necessarily on other people and the work that they might be doing in other important causes, right? And it doesn't mean that any kind of learning is happening when we do that. So it's always kind of problematic when we do that. It's kind of this difference between what you see on Instagram and what you see in real life, right? Like so much of the stuff that we see on social media doesn't actually exist like that in real life, right? Like no one's life is that perfect, even though they portray themselves as that on social media. So that kind of can lead to some kind of unhealthy habits and things like that. So that's not always the best thing to do either, but that's a lot of times what digital citizenship curriculum is kind of built around, is this kind of show off how great you are and all the great things that you're doing. So some of that's probably okay, but like they put too much emphasis on that a lot of the time. Okay. Another kind of key thing that we think of when we think of the traditional approaches to digital citizenship is that digital media is really used for for entertainment. So you can, you watch TV, whether it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of these other kind of streaming services, or you just play games, right? You do things that are just for fun on there. Maybe it's reading BuzzFeed lists, those kind of things, whatever it might be, right? So it's for entertainment, right? Or it might be for socialization. So it's, talking with other people, which yes, a lot of digital media does have that built into it, and that's a good thing. And it can be a bad thing, but it doesn't mean it's always a bad thing, which is often how it's taken. And a lot of times when we think about it, there's always some kind of ill intent, something that students are going to do wrong using digital media. And we've kind of talked about that earlier in the semester. So as we think about these traditional approaches to digital citizenship curriculum, a lot of times it's presented as this kind of bad thing that we shouldn't really be doing because it's a distraction, right? And it's not that all the time, but what happens is in schools, a lot of the times, they see it as a distraction and it being bad. So what they do is they block it. Right? There's a lot of content filtering. I'm sure you've all experienced this when you were in school, where they blocked certain websites for certain reasons, and they never really explained themselves. And sometimes not really a good justification behind why they would block something, right? And a lot of times they do it in the name of safety, right? But that's not exactly always the case, right? Because a lot of times we'll say, yes, we're doing it in the name of safety, but we're doing it at the expense of like these future skills and knowledge that we need to have that we can develop and let students participate in spaces, right? We're not letting them do these kinds of things, which can be problematic given the world that we live in today. Okay, but of course it doesn't have to be this way. We can always do something different, and the approach that Matson really advocates for is really showing these valuable connections with other people through digital media. There's all kinds of new learning opportunities that are available through digital media that we should be trying to take advantage of. All kinds of collaborative problem solving that we can do, whether it's people within a classroom kind of setting or outside. There's always ways that we can work together using a lot of these digital tools, especially those tools that allow us to interact and communicate with one another. And really what we're seeing is that we're able to use these tools to really make a change in the world. And a good example of this is with everything that's going on with the coronavirus and people being home. There has been a Facebook group that was created by some teachers in Harrisburg School District in South Dakota, and they created it just as a way for their teachers to be able to communicate and share resources and ideas, and now it has like exploded. There's over 6,000 teachers that are in it. Right? And we may not think of this as changing the world, but it absolutely is, because these teachers are able to ask questions, get feedback, share resources and ideas that are helping them kind of get through this difficult time as they try to teach remotely or online. And for almost all these teachers, it's their first experience doing any of this. And it's kind of amazing how this is working. So as we think about like how we can do different things using digital media, that's a perfect example of how it can be used in a good way, in a positive way. Okay. Madsen also talks about, minimizing branding, which I agree. You should do a little bit of it, but maybe not, that's all you ever do is showing how great you are. Be humble, I think, is a good thing to do sometimes in social media. And then really kind of promote this idea that you can network with other people and accomplish so much more when you work with other people than if you just try to do something by yourself. Okay. So as we think about, well, what can you do? There are a number of different things that you can do to help your students develop this capacity, these skills, so that they can interact in positive ways in a kind of this digital society that we live, right? And the first thing you can do is really show those authentic examples of how people can positively and productively use media, right? And a lot of times it's showing things like people that are advocating for causes, and maybe it's something that's a community-based thing in your own local community, or maybe some national-oriented type thing, right? Any of that's work, or any of that kind of stuff works, so go ahead and show those. Maybe it's your own involvement professionally, maybe using Twitter or something else, where you're sharing resources or information that you found through social media. Or maybe it's things like, Kickstarters or GoFundMe pages, those kind of fundraisers that are kind of have some kind of cause behind them, some kind of benefit behind them that you share and show, hey, this is one way that people are able to contribute to develop this idea and support one another. So you show those authentic, real examples to students, and they can kind of get an idea of, hey, this is what it looks like in the real world, okay? It's not just these negative things that happen. You could also help students find their own networks that they want to join, right? And the book kind of takes you through some steps that you can go through, is kind of helping them figure out, well, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? What kind of platforms might you need to use? Is this a community that's only found on Facebook, or is there, something on Snapchat or whatever it might be? Help them create the account, walk them through that process, help them determine what are kind of those norms in the community. I'm just thinking about this one that I joined for the South Dakota educators. They had very clear guidelines for what you do in this space, right? So help them understand what that means. And then it comes down to helping them, figure out how to take that first step and interact with other people in that community in a positive way, okay? And then, of course, you can always model those positive online interactions. And I think as much that you can do in your classroom is the best, right? Because that's a place that you can control who's in the environment, and you do it in developmentally appropriate ways, right? So maybe you're using things like Class Dojo or Seesaw or Flipgrid or Google Classroom if you have older kids that you're teaching. Other things that you can do is Mystery Skype or Skype in the classroom. Mystery Skype is actually a really fun thing. A teacher in 3rd grade at Jolly does Mystery Skypes a couple times a year. And basically what it is you connect with another teacher in another classroom, and they will, you try to figure out where each other is located by asking questions, so you can kind of connect it to some literacy content. And it's a way for you to get kids interacting with other kids across the world, really. I know that she's done it twice in the last year, and one time it was a school in Texas, and one time it was a school in New Jersey. So it's kind of fun to see just where you get connected with people, and it's a great way for them, to ask questions and just interact with other people from other places, right? It's a very positive, healthy interaction for kids. Now, Skype also has a whole ton of resources that you can use in the classroom. And it's a way to connect with, experts in the field doing research. There's a link to the video here. I'll put these slides up so you can click on the link, but ways to just interact and have these virtual field trips through Skype. And it's a really enriching way to engage students. And it shows them that, hey, we can use digital media in ways that actually are beneficial, right? And these are the kind of things that we should be doing. And too often we just don't do them in school. Okay. Now, as you also think of other ways that you can connect with other classrooms, keep in mind all these people that you're typically sitting around in the classroom, right? All your peers are going to be teachers someday, and they would be perfect people to connect with, because you're all going to go in different schools throughout the state, throughout the world, throughout the region, that kind of thing. Keep these contacts, right? Keep in contact with the people that you're going to school with right now, because you can always connect up with them and do something with their classrooms as well. Okay. So that's kind of the end of digital citizenship, and really the end of any new content that we're going to cover in the class. And to kind of round out what we're doing, just go over some housekeeping real quick. So to finish up for this next week, read the last 2 chapters out of Madsen if you haven't done that. And then on Tuesday, you need to have your PLN project submitted. If you need more time to work on that, you just got to let me know. And let me know before the due date would be much appreciated. That way I am not looking for it and it's just not there, okay? And then you have the rest of this week, and you'll have all of next week to work on your digital citizenship project. Okay, and the expectations for that assignment are in D2L, so you have that to look at. Looking forward, we have just a couple things to do kind of going forward. We have the second program survey. I will make that available next week. On Monday, I will do one more video just kind of talking about what you have to do. It will be a purely housekeeping video. So have that, and then I'll also be making the final exam available starting next week. And I'll go over what's going to be covered on that and everything in next week's video. Okay? So as always, if you have questions, you need to make sure you're asking them. You can email me, you can do a post in the Ask Dr. Emma question, or you can come to the online office half hour. Otherwise, I'll see you online.